I'm your host, Katie Helper, and it is Wednesday, 6/22, June 22nd. I'm here as always. If it's 6-ish, if it's after the news on a Wednesday, you know you can always count on joy, happiness, enlightenment, wokeness, knowledge dropping from the Katie Halper Show on WBAI. That's WBAI.org on the interwebs or 99.5 FM. And as always, I'm joined by my co-chair, Gabriel Pacheco.
That's right, Gabriel Bundle Stacks Pacheco, just making all that loot.
All that loot.
All that WBAI money.
Exactly. And by money, we mean
I'm just
fame, not fortune.
Getting so much fame, recognized
so much fame
on the street for this voice.
I mean, by the voice. You just literally ask. You hail a cab. You ask the bus driver.
They go. They stop because they're like, "Hold on, wait a minute. Let me hear that voice." Yes, you are Gabe Pacheco from WBAI Radio.
OMG, I've been wanting to meet you my entire life, or at least since last June.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to right now. And of course, we're also here with Reginald. Is your name Reginald for real?
It's Reggie.
Just Reggie. Like that's your given name?
Reggie James Johnson's my given name.
Wait, have we talked about this? Who's the engineer in chief?
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Hi.
So glad to be here. Do you know my dad's name is James Paul Johnson?
Who's James Paul Johnson?
He was a black jazz pianist in the 20s, I think, 30s.
Oh.
Jimmy P. Johnson or something, and that's who my dad's named after. So
really?
And you're Reggie
James
Johnson. So you just take out
I was
the Paul.
named after a cop.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was this cop?
This cop that was
a Coptic cop?
No. Actually, he was a cop in the true sense. I mean, not, as he lived in the community. He in Harlem and was actually pretty well revered in within the community back in the 1960s and 70s when he was on duty. He was on duty. So he was actually one of the good ones, one of the good people that were, that was part of the NYPD. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
What happened to him and his ilk?
Well, I don't know.
I'm just kidding. There's some good NYPD.
And he was a person that throughout his tenure never pulled the trigger. He used his brain rather than
his gonads.
Yeah, really. He thought before he reacted.
Right. He didn't shoot first, ask questions later.
Exactly.
He didn't shoot first, call NYPD union rep and lawyer, and then ask questions later.
And he deflected a lot of skirmishes, especially during the time of the late 60s and early 70s when there was a lot of hullabaloo going on during that time.
Hullabaloo.
Yeah. Hullabaloo.
That was the political scientist term of preference, I believe.
Oh, well, so I think I got that from, somewhere, yeah. I think it was one of my sociology classes.
There you go.
Where I got that from.
There you go.
Right.
So, Gabe, what's up with you? I think we can shoot the ish for a little bit before we get into our first guest. And I just want to put a little preview out there. First of all, you guys know what happens the first Wednesday of the month. That's when we have our show in front of an audience. You've got to come. That means our next one is July 6th.
July 6th, yes. Is that going to be a Wednesday? Is it going to be a Tuesday? What are we doing?
So here's the deal, guys. We're giving you a heads up. We historically do them the first Wednesday of the month, which means our next one will be July 6th. But then we're gonna switch it up a little bit, add some zest and spice into your schedules, and start doing it a Tuesday. Now, I will confirm with everyone which of the 4 Tuesdays it will be on. But just know, not Wednesdays anymore, but Tuesdays. And that's going to be great because then, for the people who can't come to that show in front of an audience, we just play it the next day. And it's still fresh.
That's right. And our last show, we had a full house. It was packed.
I mean, literally standing room only.
Wall to wall. Humid. It got humid in there.
Yes, from the windows to the walls.
Greenhouse style.
Greenhouse style, exactly. And it was a great time. So we're going to tell you next week. We want to keep you in suspense for a little bit more. And then we will tell you next week.
If you're at home, just keep sitting there on your hands with bated breath waiting until next week to find out who will be on the show.
Or sit there on your breath with bated hands. How do you like that?
You can do that too.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that would look like. Anyway, and of course you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on SoundCloud. You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gabe, are you okay? You look very You look very rabbinical right now.
I'm feeling rabbinical. I'm feeling very, like I might convert. I might become, I might go and just Kabbalah, read the Kabbalah like Madonna.
Get your Kabbalah
You know what
on.
I mean? Just try to get back to the Abrahamic original, the OG Abrahamic monotheistic religion.
Is that a word, Abrahamic?
OGAM. Yeah, it is.
You know.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Well, I just want to give you guys a little preview of our show. And, of course, by the way, iTunes, SoundCloud, find us there. And also, Gabe Pacheco, you can find ITF in the flesh every Wednesday.
That's right.
Tell them about it.
I'll be at Pete's Candy Store this Wednesday, which is tonight at in Williamsburg, which is the hotbed of hipster culture. Come on down to Williamsburg. We're right off the L train, Bedford L, or you can get off at the Lorimer L.
So many
and
options.
Walk to Pete's Candy Store, which is like a beautiful Wes Andersonian type performance venue. Very intimate, and it feels like a miniature dollhouse. Has been, whatever. That's
Right.
just it
I
looks
like
nice.
That.
So
And it hides from any genuine emotions and is
super ironic.
I totally get it.
Wes Andersonian.
Wes Andersonian. Andersian,
Interesting.
if you will. Andersian. So here's what we have coming up on the pike. So excited. We have Lee Fang, who we're going to call in just a couple of, basically in a minute or
Lee
two.
Fang from The Intercept?
From The Intercept,
Oh,
yeah.
that's delicious.
this guy is great. He was one of the first, I think, if not the first people to uncover and detail the role of the billionaire Koch brothers in financing the Tea Party movement.
Oh, that's fun because I'm just reading Dark Money now. Well, it's an Audible book, so I walk around on the streets and I listen to the Audible book Dark Money, all about those guys, the Koch brothers.
So exciting, so fun. They're so charming. And he's like kind of a big deal, not just as a journalist, but he's been on his research on the Koch brothers. How about this? Has been featured on HBO's The Newsroom.
Okay.
The documentaries Merchants of Doubt and Citizen Koch. And he also was an investigative blogger for Think Progress, home of the blog that is part of Center for American Progress. And as we all know, Neera Tanden, my correspondent, online correspondent, is there. And he's now at The Intercept. And we're going to talk to him in just a second. And then at the end of the show, we have a special, I think we have we're breaking it. It's an exclusive. It's a radio exclusive about this hullabaloo. Now, this really is hullabaloo.
Is it a Donnybrook?
It is a Donnybrook
a Tempest in a Teapot?
A Tempest in a Teapot. We're going to be talking to Nomiki Konst, who is the host of the Filter on Sirius XM, Progress, and a Bernie surrogate and at-large delegate. And she's going to tell us about this little thing. NBD, guys, no big deal, but there may or may not have been a Democratic delegation meeting at which certain delegates were not allowed to speak. Certain delegates had their mics cut. Okay, mic cut, not mic drop. Cut the mic was the command.
Were they bound and gagged?
They weren't, but one of the people there was actually, no joke, she was a young woman of color who tried to move to, do you say Dace or Dies? How do you say it? Dace?
Deus.
To second a motion that was basically, we'll get into it, but they were challenging Governor Cuomo, blah, blah, blah. No, the rules were not being respected. The procedural rules, the Robertsonian, RoboCop, whatever.
Do you know where I learned those rules, the
Where?
Roberts rules of holding
Where?
a meeting? From watching The Wire.
There you go.
Yeah.
So much.
Stringer Bell. He tried to get all the
Stringer
crack
Bell.
dealers in Baltimore to follow Robert's rules. It didn't work
Stringer.
out so well for him.
It didn't.
Okay.
No, it didn't.
No spoilers.
But that doesn't mean that Robert's rules don't work well. I mean, what we have is it's a disaster in the Baltimore drug scene, and it may or may not be, spoiler alert, it is a disaster at the New York State Democratic Party leadership.
Is there any difference?
Unclear.
Yeah.
Unclear.
We'll find out.
Boom. We just did a fist bump that you can't see. But Nomiki Konst was there, and she's going to talk to us about this major obstruction of democracy that involved a young woman of color trying to move to the dais to second a motion, and an older white male Hillary supporter hitting her with his hand and his cane.
Wow, with a crooked cudgel.
Yeah, a crooked cudgel. So we're so excited. So we're going to talk to Lee Fang and Nomiki Konst. But let us talk right now to Lee Fang. Is he there? Is his mic hot? Yeah. Okay. Lee, are you there? Hey, thank you.
Hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for joining us. You are talking to me, Katie Halper, and to Gabe Pacheco, my co-host, and Reggie Johnson, our engineer-in-chief. And thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, Lee, we're really excited that you can talk to us because we know how busy you are, because you cover a lot of corruption and dark money and what we like to call mishigas here at WBAI. So that keeps you pretty busy, right? Never a dull or free moment. But we want to talk to you about some of the things that you've written recently at The Intercept. And last week we had Zed Jelani. So we're having back-to-back Intercept reporters on the show. That's how much we like The Intercept. So just wanted you to know that. Full disclosure, we're fans. Now, you have an article that you wrote for The Intercept that is about Elizabeth Warren. And it's pretty cool. It sheds a lot of light on the way the media works. And it is called Attacking Elizabeth Warren, Political Reporters Will Grant You Anonymity. And this came out this week. And you basically talk about the way the, quote, elite media journalists use anonymous sources in articles that either criticize Warren directly or warn other politicians about the dangers of embracing her political style and the policies she advocates. And then you give a special shout out, Lee, to Ben White from Politico, because he had a piece on Monday, and it cited 5 anonymous sources. And these sources included one top Democratic donor, one moderate Washington Democrat, and one prominent hedge fund manager. Now, I have a question for you. I may have made a discovery that could help you. Ready for this?
Yeah, lay it on me.
Okay, I'm going to lay it on you. Ready? I think I may have figured out who these people are because the Wall Street Journal, you may or may not have noticed, had an article that the headline of which talked about the split within the Sanders campaign. And to demonstrate the split, which was apparently over whether or not he should drop out of the race, this was last month, they spoke to Devine and Jeff Weaver, and neither one said he should drop out. And then the people who said he should drop out just happened to be a hedge fund manager, a donor, and I'm wondering if they just recycled these people. Those people that were named. Now, of course, the malpractice, the journalistic malpractice in that case was the fact that not a single person who wanted Bernie Sanders to drop out actually had anything to do with the campaign, despite the headline and the opening paragraph, which again presented the article as kind of an expose on the split within the campaign. So, just saying, there could be some overlap.
This is something that is just so pervasive in political reporting. It's hard to begin anywhere because it happens every day. It happens with all types of stories. But, the trend is if you're reporting on a public interest issue or, a marginal but progressive politician, the best way to attack them is to use these blind quotes, these anonymous quotes. And, in journalism, there are some circumstances where this type of reporting tactic is embraced and seen as acceptable. If there's a source who's, they could be tortured or they could lose their life or, something horrible could happen to them if you reveal their identity. Otherwise, it's best to provide the reader with as much information as possible so they can judge what are the biases and what the point of view or potential conflict of interest is for the person being quoted. And, for Elizabeth Warren, it's just a special phenomenon. The article from Morning Money, Ben White, as he calls himself based on his column, I guess, he took 5 different anonymously quoted individuals, hedge fund manager, a consultant, a Democratic Party leader, supposedly, and had them quoted to warn about the dangers of bringing Elizabeth Warren as Hillary Clinton's running mate, saying that would be basically a major misstep for the campaign. She would lose all her campaign financing, especially from Wall Street. There are other potential pitfalls. But, this is a regular thing. Like, we found just in, a searching for about an hour and a half or so, 15 other examples, other articles, but within those articles, lots of blind quotes of the same thing happening constantly. When Elizabeth Warren was thinking about running for Senate in Massachusetts, there's a anonymously quoted Democratic consultant saying, do they really want to do this? Or when she gets elected to the Senate and Democratic Senate leadership promotes her to a leadership role, you have anonymously quoted lobbyists saying this isn't a big deal, or maybe she'll actually lose clout. It's like, who are these people? Is this just a lobbyist who doesn't want to see Elizabeth Warren ascend in the party? Is this someone who's actually being investigated by Elizabeth Warren and they don't want to put their name out there because obviously that would detract from the power of their quote? We have no idea. But it's a cowardly tactic on both ends, both from the reporter who constantly uses these blind quotes and from, of course, the source who doesn't want to, who wants to lob bombs and pick pot shots without having any responsibility.
Right. It's kind of like testifying, not being able to see your accusers in court.
It sounds like everybody who leaves comments on my YouTube videos.
That's true. You're no better than Gabe Pacheco's nasty YouTube commenters who don't even have the courage to put their name up there.
They don't even put an avatar up there.
No
it's
avatar.
just a question mark where the face should be.
Yeah, or like it's the Twitter egg of journalism.
I mean, this is like super normal for like political journalism, but could you imagine any other major story reported this way? Like, some well-placed engineer says there's a planned demolition that brought down the Twin Towers or something. It's like, okay, yeah, so we should just believe, some anonymously quoted engineer or something like this. This would be insane. This tactic would be insane to use for most stories, but it can become the complete norm for politics just because it's kind of half of this political coverage is just theatrics and pushing a certain narrative. It's not actually hard news that's being reported.
Right. Or you could think of it in different, even political contexts, where it's like anonymous source, businessman who didn't want to be named, calls Donald Trump the best, the most unbelievable, fabulous, amazing.
When you guys say
politician out there,
unnamed hedge fund man or businessman, I just imagine like the monocled Monopoly character from the Parker Brothers game, just like twirling his mustache.
Yeah, that's probably who it is. Or it could be.
And in a lot of cases, it could be like the same person too, right? Like, what if this is a former White House official who's also a Democratic strategist, who also is a consultant at a hedge fund? It could be literally the same person quoted in different stories, but they're characterized a different way for each story.
What I love about one of the things I love about the Democratic Party is that you can be all those things at once, right?
You can wear many hats.
You can wear many top hats and monocles and suits, and it's a really intersectional. It's what I love about the intersectional position of the Democratic Party, right? Is that you're not. It's very millennial-esque. It's very kind of. It's beyond the binary, right? You have these multiplicity of identities interacting, overlapping, right?
It's just very fluid. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So, how long did you say it took you to compile these 15 hits of anonymous?
I just looked
smears?
Monday afternoon. We put up the story Tuesday morning. I looked for an hour or two, but I'm sure there are more. This was not an exhaustive search. I just did a quick thing on LexisNexis,
right.
But I'm sure you can find dozens more, and especially if you look more on the consumer issues that we cover, or if you just read Politico. Politico is probably the worst offender in this world.
Yeah,
for the piece that we put up, we focused on Ben White, but I mean, you can find probably, if I had to guess, hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of this just on Politico.
Right. And Politico, of course, was still pushing that the chair's throne narrative at the Nevada convention. Even though there were no chairs thrown. But you know what? I like it. They're like quaint. They're old school. Like, they don't need to keep up with the news. They're like, I don't know. There's something charming about that.
Yeah.
Sticking to a story.
Well, I just like the chairs being thrown narrative myself personally. I mean, I'm a fan of wrestling.
Exactly,
so
yeah. A lot of drama there.
I'm their demographic, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you found 15 in a couple of hours, it's probably fair to say that they're like, I don't know, what, you could find like 1,000 a week? Someone better at math, tell me what that would turn into. But I just wanted to read some of the top hits. Oh, and by the way, if you're listening, guys, again, these are some of my suspicions, right? Because I think these descriptions match up to the anonymous sources that are cited in the Politico piece. Could be maybe Orrin Kramer, a New York hedge fund manager. I'm also thinking another possible source could be, just going through that other schlocky article, This one being from Wall Street Journal. Could be, what's this guy's name? Tom Daschle, maybe, because he's also cited. Maybe Alan Kessler, who is a fundraiser. So again, these may be actually repeat witnesses. Anyway, just a little theory. But what was one of your favorite ones, Lee, of the anonymous smears that you found?
Oh God, I mean, they're all
so many. They're all so great, right?
They're bad. I mean, just like I think one of my favorites was someone like close to the administration. This was in a Politico piece about Elizabeth Warren coming out against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, this controversial trade deal with 11 other Pacific Rim countries. Yeah, I mean, this was like a big political deal, and this whole article was about how the administration was unhappy with Warren disagreeing with Obama on this. But they I think the quote here saying that this was just a sign of desperation. But it's like,
oh yeah,
okay,
that was great.
Someone want to grab a spine and take credit for such a claim? Like if you want to smear her like that?
Right.
No, it's like someone close to the administration. Was that person a banker close to the administration? Was that someone who was literally lobbying for the deal? Of course, they'd say it's a sign of desperation. Or was it someone of authority? You know, who knows?
Right.
I mean, and you could read this, and then you'll see these quotes then discussed on MSNBC and on the nightly news, and it becomes like a big headache for, I guess, people who want to talk about the deal, because again, then we're talking about what some random person, potentially self-interested person, said about how Elizabeth Warren is now, creating a new divide within the Democratic Party, and we get to talk about this kind of horse race version of the deal, rather than saying, hey, maybe she has legitimate concerns, and let's discuss the content of the deal and what this means for American workers or whatever. But that takes a lot more work, right? Just in terms of reporting the story, and it doesn't achieve the same ends, which is, to diminish her effort to steer the deal towards a different policy outcome or to block it.
Right. It gets in the way of the pro-oligarchy agenda. The media.
That's a much more. That's a better summary.
That's good. That's good, right? You can use it, Lee.
That's better.
Totally use it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. The actual quote.
A well-placed source on talk radio.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can name me. I'm out. I'm publicly.
But you could be anyone that way. I mean, I'm just saying.
Right. I know. Yeah.
I could use it like 5 times in different stories.
Yeah, exactly. You could be like a female radio personality. You could say a secular Jewish radio personality. You could say a native New Yorker radio personality. You could just compartmentalize me as many times. Again, intersectionality.
For sure, that's the intersectional way to do it. I love it.
Like, whoa. The exact quote that you were citing was said that Warren's stance on TPP, her opposition to it, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, was a sign of desperation. Really like that. Then you got one of my favorite quotes of all of them, which actually caused me to underline and write OMG under it, was also a Politico article in which a senior Wall Street Democrat, I love that, by the way, senior Wall Street Democrat, that's just beautiful. Senior Wall Street Democrat said, quote, "In this case, the thing Warren was against, adding another Wall Street anti-regulatory guy, wasn't even remotely true." And then the source, Ben White, noted in his piece, quote, "Like many interviewed for this article, declined to be identified by name to avoid Warren's wrath." See, Lee, that's where you're wrong. You said that the protocol is to be anonymous when your life is at risk, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is known really well for, her work on bankruptcy law, on predatory lending, but she also has the power to send random Wall Street Democrats to Gitmo.
Exactly.
Not as well known.
Right, not as well known because she's stealth, because what happens? Snitches get stitches. As Gabe likes to say.
That's right. I learned that from Cameron.
Yes.
Don't snitch.
Don't snitch because you will get sutures, to paraphrase it. But yeah, I love the idea that, she is what you see Elizabeth Warren waiting for you in like the Senate lunchroom with a baseball bat.
Just ghoulish with a Grim Reaper scythe.
Grim Reaper. Maybe she does like a little Tanya Harding move on you.
She's like, I heard you had my name in your mouth. Keep my name out your
out of
mouth.
your mouth.
She's like Marlo from The Wire.
Exactly,
She's like,
yeah.
my name is my name.
E-dubs. Lizzie Dubs. But you know what they say, hell hath no fury.
Like Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren scorned.
Her wrath.
Yeah, maybe if they didn't talk about her like anonymously, she wouldn't be so mad, and she wouldn't have to take violent measures. Against
Yeah, that's
you.
the subtext to the Politico piece on Monday. Like they said, explicitly that they don't want her on the Clinton ticket because she's so populist, she's so progressive, she's going to dry up campaign donations, yada yada. She's too far left, but really she's got this extraordinary rendition power, and she's going to get revenge on anyone who's quoted and talks
irony
poorly of her.
So,
and the irony being, of course, all these people are for, don't really care about due process, which is a subject we're going to bring up next. But sorry, Gabe, what were you saying?
Oh, I just like that last thing you said, Lee, that the DNC is worried that she's going to dry up donations that are coming from ultra wealthy people aren't going to donate. But I feel like there could be a positive spin on that she will that she's standing up for everyone else, the 99% of people that don't have a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be nice to see who these people, the identity of the people making these claims? Because they might just be folks who have a lot of power in the party and don't want to see their power diminished. Elizabeth Warren, right? Like, if anything, having Elizabeth Warren there, and if what they're saying is true, and there are less corporate donations and big money from Wall Street and K Street, that could make the party more, responsive to its base.
Right.
But it's hard to evaluate these claims when they're all blind quotes.
Right. I do like that idea when people use things that are supposed to be insults, but they're actually great, like praise of someone. So, people are like, Bernie Sanders wasn't even a Democrat before. I'm like, stop selling him so hard. I already like the guy. You don't need to push him. You don't need to push me. I already like him. I also, another one of the quotes that I really like was from an actual top Republican-leaning Wall Street lawyer who said over lunch in Midtown Manhattan that Warren would be a nightmare. I don't know why I imagine him talking like that, but I do. A nightmare. Again, not sure why we want a Republican-leaning Wall Street lawyer to be pro Elizabeth Warren.
And what type of lunch was he having? I mean, this is sloppy journalism. Was it halal food cart?
Or was it Sloppy Joe, speaking of sloppy journalism? All questions we need to know. All things we need to know, right? Well, Lee, can you also talk to us a little bit about what it's like being a reporter during this election, if it's different at all from being a reporter during the other elections, and also want to get to the gun filibuster that liberals are really getting verklempt over. But of course, there's another angle to it.
They love it, man. Tears in eyes.
Literally tears, and all sorts of different substances.
I like any time that guns are threatened because I've got tons of stocks in ammunition and gun companies.
Right.
And sales just keep going up.
So can you tell us a little bit about whichever one you want to talk about first? You want to talk about the Twilight Zone that is reporting on politics right now, or do you want to start with the terrorist fear-mongering, as your colleague Glenn Greenwald at The Intercept describes, what's going on with the filibuster?
Yeah, let's start with the filibuster.
Okay,
I mean, that's
great.
in the news right now, so why not?
You're like, why don't we start with an actual concrete question instead of a really vague, abstract, open-ended, touchy-feely, meaningless
Love that
thing,
open-ended question.
Right?
How's it feel to be you?
Yeah. What makes you tick? Okay,
Yeah, so I think the last time we saw this tactic deployed with members of Congress in the minority party, taking to the floor and refusing to leave until there's a vote on their preferred issue was in 2008 during that presidential campaign. But House Republicans were going to the mat demanding a vote on offshore drilling or drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, I believe, the drill baby drill stuff. So, this time Democrats are doing it. And, for any of these things, I see a lot of folks on Twitter saying, oh, it's a political ploy, it's a political stunt. Of course it is. But, I think the question is it an honorable one? Is it something that's actually working towards a big solution? These are, sit-ins have a really special place in American history. They're used to kind of draw attention to racial segregation, to racial apartheid in the United States. And so for Democrats to deploy the tactic now, it's a little bit weird because, there is a gun crisis in America. There are too many guns. They're being used too much to commit violence. I think that's pretty objective. But for Democrats today, they are doing this because they're trying to force a vote on a bill sponsored by New York Republican Peter King that would give the Attorney General powers to go in and block gun sales to people the Attorney General deems as suspected terrorists or ties to suspected terrorists. And what's generally believed is that they will use something like the Terror Watch List, which is a secret list, and it's been talked about a lot in the past, where to be added to this list, no one knows the criteria, no one knows the exact contents of the list, but generally speaking, it's just lots of Arab and Muslim names, lots of them duplicates of other people with similar names. So even babies that are 7 months old have been added to this list.
Baby Muhammad.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, clearly.
Only going to be one or two of those.
Yeah. Terrorist mastermind, 7-year-old baby Muhammad.
Exactly.
And there's so many other students and even politicians. What's kind of interesting here is that one of the people leading the sit-in on the House floor this afternoon has been John Lewis, the famous former civil rights activist turned Georgia congressman, and he was added to the terror watch list during the Bush years, and he couldn't board a flight for months. They would block him. He would have to get in arguments at the airport. His own office lobbied the Bush administration to take him off and asked the airlines to take him off. They couldn't do it.
Oh my God! How did he get on that terrorist watch list? Makes me like him even more, actually. I mean, in some ways.
I found an article from 2005 or 6 talking about this, and he suspected it was from some of his arrests from engaging in civil rights disobedience actions or something else. But like I said, the criteria for adding one to the list is secret. Not only are the names secret, but the criteria is secret.
Right. You got to keep us interested. You got to play hard to get, or else we're not going to care.
What I like about all of this is that if I was on the list, I wouldn't know until I went to get a gun. And then would the gun shop owner have to be like, wait a minute, sorry, Gabe, but you're on the list. Do you find out that you're on the list when you go buy a gun, or would that be
No, because
what would happen?
Find out when you go try to board a plane? I mean, that's what Gabe just said.
Yeah. I mean, it depends if you buy more guns or board more planes.
Right.
That's when you would find out.
I can't tell because I split my time between those two activities.
Right. So. I'm either taking trips to Sandals or I'm going and trying to get another Sig Sauer.
If I'm not on my way to Turks and Caicos, I'm definitely on my way to Walmart to buy a AK-47. Is that a thing?
That's a thing.
Okay, good. I don't know that much.
Yeah,
so ironic for someone who spends 50% of her time.
Different folks.
Exactly.
But, there are a number of there's lots of bills that I think from the progressive point of view or for progressive critics are pretty reasonable, pretty unbiased. They could push a ban on extended clip ammunition. They could push universal background checks, close the gun show loophole, or ban assault weapons. These type of things that I think are generally agreed upon in terms of a lot of gun safety experts say that this would at least make some marginal effort in making it more difficult for people to just obtain lots of dangerous weapons. Of course, none of these kind of options would end gun violence alone, but they would take at least an unbiased step towards resolving the problem in some way. But instead, House Democrats have gotten together. They've actually filled out a discharge petition, meaning it's basically a special legislative maneuver saying if you get enough signatures on this petition, you can force the Speaker of the House to schedule a vote. And, Speaker Ryan has not scheduled a vote on any gun control measure. However, the only discharge petition is for the Peter King bill that gives the Attorney General vague rights to deny anyone suspected of terrorism without any due process.
But to be fair, Peter King is one of those really post-partisan, bipartisan, reaching across the aisle, always working with Democrats. I'm being totally sarcastic. He is the guy from, is he from Long Island or Staten Island? One of those really, or upstate, Long Island. One of those really enlightened, woke places. Sorry, guys, but it's true. And he's the one who's, of course, always trying to call on, like, Congressman Ellison and other Muslims just to kind of give us an update about what they're doing, making sure they're not up to anything, making any bombs in their basements.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's a delicious irony in this. I mean, delicious and that's depressing. But, like, the guy that all these House Democrats are saying, we've got to use these time-tested civil rights, racial justice tactics on gun rights. They're rallying behind a bill sponsored by Peter King, who's constantly saying we need to, monitor Muslims. We need to deploy special police to monitor mosques. Basically, he's explicitly called for discrimination based on religion, and that's what Democrats are rallying behind today. And here's the other thing. I mean, Peter King's bill says the Attorney General gets to deem, which people are suspected terrorists. I mean, there's no process, at least in his bill. But Peter King back in the 80s, he was an extremely vocal advocate for the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. He loves his own particular type of terrorism. Would he be added to that own list? It's not clear,
of the morning terrorism, if you will.
Yeah, the more friendly type.
Guinness-based, hoppy. No, not hoppy. Guinness is not hoppy, right?
Yeah, he's into more like Sons of Anarchy terrorists and less into...
He's into IRA.
IRA.
He's into like car bombs, the drink, of course, and perhaps the terrorist tactic, unclear. But yeah, basically as a general rule, I'm going to put myself out there and say, Democrats, it's probably not a good look for you to get behind any bill by any Republican whose last name is King, be that Steve King or Peter King, right? Another super woke guy, Peter King, who's like a big Tea Party guy. Do
you see his bill? He wants to block Harriet Tubman 20s.
Oh my God! Wait, which King? Which King are we talking about?
That's the other King. That's Steve
King.
Iowa.
Oh, okay, Pete King, Steve King. I love it. We got a King in every port, or at least one in the Midwest, one in the ports of Long Island. And yet, so basically, what we're seeing is that all these people are getting behind this filibuster. And also, does John Lewis know that he was on this list and that what he's doing is basically making it likely that other people will experience what he experienced, except they'll be Muslim?
I've seen so many articles today about sit-in, about half of them are just about how do you stream it, because people love that
exactly.
C-SPAN turned off the cameras.
Right.
Or no, that the House Republican leadership turned off C-SPAN cameras, but then now everyone has smartphones so they can periscope it.
Right.
And so half the articles aren't actually about the content of the bill that they're pushing or the policies that they're pushing. They're like, oh, isn't it cool that you can periscope?
Right.
Yeah.
Members of Congress.
Right. Snapchat me sitting.
Yeah, Snapchat me sitting. Snapchat hashtag Snapchat sit-in. And so basically what I like about this discussion right now, which again, most liberals are praising, they don't know about the racial profiling aspect of it, or maybe they don't care, or maybe it's both. I don't want to reduce them to either or, again, beyond the binary. But what I love is that this kind of shows how terrible the Democrats are on civil liberties, on racial profiling, and then it also shows how terrible Republicans are on guns, right? So you have kind of...
Sure, and like they're just both parties. I mean, I hate to be that guy, both parties, but
it's
like
okay.
both
we
sides
totally
here.
Accepted. That's ours now too.
Okay, yeah, I'm do the Ron Fournier thing, but
nice, yeah.
They're like they're totally using this as a crass thing. I mean, look, when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, do you remember any House votes she brought up on gun control when Democrats controlled Congress? I don't. There were a number of measures. Remember what Hillary Clinton was knocking Bernie and what Martin O'Malley was knocking Bernie on a regular basis for almost 2 months, late last year and earlier this year, saying that he voted in 2005 to remove liability for gun manufacturers. I mean, which is objectively, I disagree with that vote. I think it was a bad vote on Bernie's part. But look, like 30 other Democrats took the same vote as Bernie. Basically, every Democrat from a rural area voted the same way. And then look after that. It's like, okay, that happened in 2005. Democrats, if this is such a big issue, you want to run TV ads, you want to say that actually empowers the NRA, it's made America a more dangerous place. Why didn't you do anything about it? That was like 11 years ago.
Right.
Hillary Clinton was in the Senate. Did she sponsor a bill to reverse that?
Incremental.
No.
Incremental.
She never even discussed this
treading.
issue once for over a decade until she realized that was a wedge issue between her and Bernie.
Right.
So, bam, that's now like
Bam,
the most important
bam
gun
is
issue in
right.
America.
Right. And of course, she sat on the board of Walmart, which is up until recently, was the biggest gun seller in the country and possibly in the world. So, well, Lee, thank you so much for joining us. We would love to have you back. If you're in New York, no, not if, when you're in New York,
Yeah.
we would love to have you in studio. And everyone can check out Lee at The Intercept. You can also check him out on Twitter, where his handle, or nom de guerre, or nom de anti-guerre, because he's a real against the military-industrial complex, if I can say that. Lee Fang, just that's it, right? Oh, wait, guys, I have to tell you something really quickly. Someone on Twitter wrote to me, mocking intersectionality is spitting in the face, because it's all caps, of feminists of color like me. Black women do listen to WBAI, act like we exist. Well, you know what, Dr. Bennett? You exist. I just want to go on record and say that. And no, I wasn't spitting in the face of intersectionality. I'm spitting in the face of the hijacking of intersectionality to support neoliberal and hawkish policies that, guess what? Newsflash, are not good for black women who are not in the economic elite. They're not good for anyone who's not in the economic elite. Did I just sound too soapboxy?
No, that was
Whatever.
fine.
Anyway, Lee, sorry you had to hear that. I don't like to be earnest in front of people I like and respect, but I had to do that little thing.
Got to do it.
Got to do it. And Lee, of course, you're someone who's taken a lot of very woke, racist attacks on Twitter from the Hillary Bros.
Yeah, I covered the Tea Party for several years. Traveled the country, got a lot of very interesting trolls. I hate the term trolls, but people who just like to send me hate every day.
Right.
But I've gotten some of the best ones this year from covering the Democratic primaries. A lot of I'm with her profile is telling me to go back to China or to say that I'm a Chinese spy. And a lot of these folks also have the intersectional hashtag that they use. I mean, it's like what you're saying. I completely agree. I mean, I kind of have scolded people for not taking a more intersectional approach to politics. But, that term has been just so bastardized this year. It's like anyone who wants to take actually a non-intersectional role will embrace it and then, tweet it a million times.
Right.
So,
Right.
I hear you. It's a thing. I joke about it, but that's because the term is just completely lost
Right.
meaning.
We're not mocking intersectionality. We're mocking the abuse of it, really. That's what
sure.
Yeah,
Taking it back.
Taking it back, yeah, reappropriating it. Okay, Lee Fang, thank you so much. And he is not a Chinese spy, everyone. So, Hillary HRC campaign, I just want to clarify that. But
well-placed radio source says I'm not. So.
Yes, exactly. New York Secular Jewess. And come back on, and thanks again for joining us. And now we're going to talk to
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of
Good
course.
to talk to you and Gabe.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye,
Take care, Lee.
Such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. And he gets so much hate, literally racist hate. Now, speaking of racist hate, we're not giving any of that away, right? You have to pay for that. No, just kidding. We're not. Here's a place you can't find racist hate. But you know what you can find here? You can find some live report back with Nomiki Konst. Is Nomi there?
I'm here, guys. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed our little Twitter fight with someone who called me out for not counting black women or saying they don't exist or something.
I loved it, and I loved listening to your interview with Lee because I'm a fangirl for Lee.
I mean, kind of, not to be whatevs, not to generalize, but like what progressive woman is not a fangirl of Lee's?
Yeah.
And progressive men, honestly. I think he kind of and of all sexual orientations. I'm just going to put it out there. I think he's engaged. That's fine. That's intersectionality for you. Exactly. Yeah. So, Nomi, please tell us about we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, because we were just having so much fun with Lee, and we got to get you live in studio, too, because you're here. But tell us what happened Tuesday.
Jesus Christ, if I can say that.
He came back? He came back? He's in the building? JC?
He's right here next to me, always.
Nice.
So basically, yesterday we had the New York State delegation meeting. I am a surrogate for Bernie Sanders, but I'm also an at-large delegate. And I was invited to this meeting, and I was around a bunch of really hardworking Bernie delegates who, who went out there and got the vote. They got enough signatures, and they got on the ballot, and they were voted delegates. It was hard work. And part of that is being part of the democratic process. So we had this meeting of all the delegates, the Hillary delegates, the Bernie delegates. It was the New York State delegation to go over some procedural stuff, have a unifying meeting, and listen to a bunch of, speeches by Hillary people, essentially, and vote on who our New York chair was going to be. Now, we knew going into it that Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown was going to nominate Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Didn't Bob Marley write a song about that?
About Andrew Cuomo?
Buffalo Mayor? Sorry. I just became my dad. I'm sorry. Reggie
I'm
did not
also
like that
from
joke.
Buffalo, so I'm sick of the Buffalo joke.
Okay, sorry about that. That was
I'm just
disrespectful.
kidding.
I'm sorry. No, that was unwoke of me. That was
It's
Buffalo-phobic.
It's okay. It's okay. Buffalonians will get over it because they have a sense of humor.
Yes.
No, so they announced that Buffalo Mayor was there to essentially nominate the Andrew Cuomo, right? Who's under federal investigation? Who's under the U.S. attorney is investigating
kind of a
him.
look for high up Democrats, huh? Being under investigation. Anyway, I Josh.
It's the new standard. Like, you can't move up unless you are being investigated.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
You know what? I want to say that that's what I like in my musicians is sort of some street cred and authenticity, and that's what I want from my politicians too.
Well,
you know?
50 Cent and Donald Trump are basically the same person. Anyway, okay, so back to your story.
So, because it's a long one. So, we did our preparation. We had a meeting beforehand. We got all of our delegates on board, taught them about Robert's Rules of Order. And we got there, and we knew we were going to motion as a group that we were in opposition of this nomination. We didn't think we were going to win. We just wanted to do it. And partially because we had a nominee that was the opposite of Andrew Cuomo, who was Linda Sarsour. But, also we wanted to make a statement. We were 42% of the New York vote. Bernie Sanders won every single county north of New York City. She only won in counties and districts where there's still a Democratic machine in operation. So there's a divide in this party. It's not young versus old. It's not just progressives versus the establishment.
Right. Although there's some of that, yeah. And
it's all of
right. And
so.
What was the real thing what's the thing that made you scream your head and that we are exposing right now within the next 2 minutes about something that happened that involved a cane?
Okay, so they didn't listen to our votes at all. We were motioning, and the secretary just ignored it. I stormed to the front. It's on camera. You can find it online on the Facebook page. I go to the front. I grab the mic that's in front of the dais, turn it on, and I go, maybe you didn't hear our votes. Maybe you didn't hear our motions, but there are 20 people back there motioning. And he just said, you're out of order. This is the secretary. And that's when Momita, who's part of our delegation, came up. She's walking down the aisle as I'm, basically trying to reason with the dais. That's all Hillary people, that they're not following their own rules. She's walking up, and she's hit by this Bernie delegate, who is
a Bernie delegate?
Gentleman from Washington.
A Bernie
County.
delegate?
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Oh my God!
Hillary delegate.
The Bernie bro narrative is so strong. You confused it. Okay.
Right.
A Hillary delegate, an old white man with a cane. I'm not making this up. Old white man with a cane hits a young woman of color, Momita Ahmed, who's coming to try to impose her democracy. Yeah,
she's motioning. She's seconding a motion. He hits her with his hand first. Then he hits her with the cane, and it's on camera.
Awesome.
And she goes back, and she's like, what are you doing? And then we kind of hunt him down later to get his name. Of course, he doesn't say anything. They shut off my mic. We try to get that guy's name. It's Casey.
And what's the hitter's name?
We have Nick. We believe it's Nick Stitcher, something like that, from Washington. He's a county chair from Washington County.
So, and of course, this hasn't made the media. We actually have to go. We have to wrap up. But I'm sorry that we only gave this. We didn't give this enough time. But we would love to have you on another time.
What's
media
the
bias.
And what is the Facebook? What did you say? Sorry.
I said media bias.
Media bias. I know. Basically, we just got a call from the powers that be. They're like, you got to stop exposing this. But we can find this video. We're going to post it on the Katie Halper Facebook page, but it's also on the People for Bernie Facebook page. And we're going to talk more about
the
this.
New Yorkers for Bernie.
New Yorkers for Bernie Facebook page. But again, just so you know, a woman of color was hit with a cane by an old man. And imagine if this was done by a Bernie supporter to a Hillary supporter, just putting it out there. And also, more importantly, but not quite as sexily, is that you weren't allowed to basically participate in the democratic process. And it's all on film.
Also, there's a lawsuit being filed.
Okay,
there's a lawsuit being filed, and she's pressed charges.
Awesome.
But
so we will
feel free to not,
No, yeah. And again, Nomiki Konst, we love her. She's has her own show on Sirius Radio. And we will see you sometime soon in the future. You got to update us. And we will see all our listeners, or hear all of them, at least next week, 6 p.m. Find us on iTunes. I'm Katie Halper, Gabe Pacheco, Reggie Johnson. We love you. Bye.